Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being here today. We have Dr. Dadgar. He's from San Francisco, associate professor in School of Management, San Francisco, and his area of expertise, information and communication technologies. Dr. Dadgar has published his article in several journals, top journals, including Journal of Business Ethics, the one I'm dreaming one day to publish in. Not yet, but I'm getting there. And also his work has appeared in several conferences, workshops, and also he contributed to the first and second volume of the book, Digital Project Practices. And actually his chapter named FinTech Process Automation will form the basis of our webinar of today. Dr. Dadgar, please.
Absolutely. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. It's a pleasure to talk about one of the areas that I'm very much interested in, because I believe that it is the building block of any business that we can think of, which is business processes. And I see a lot of inefficiencies in the processes that businesses are facing. They have a lot of questions about the ways they can work better together, why projects are taking longer, why do we have to fill out so many different forms, things like that. So I've been always interested in the area, and it's a great pleasure to talk about this topic as well. So my email is on the screen if anyone is interested to have any follow-up discussion or to talk about these ideas more, or discuss any kind of collaboration on the ideas that I present today. Please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be very happy to talk about them, those ideas. I would like to start. So I'm going to, in my talk, I'm going to start with some assumptions about business processes. And then after those assumptions, I'll talk about automation a little bit. And then I'll finish with the fintech context, processes in finance industry. As Dr. Badir said, I'll finish with that, and then I'll try to make sure that the talk is not going to be too long. And then if there are any questions or comments, I'll be available for those. And also during the talk, if at any point, if anyone has any questions or would like to make any comments, please feel free to do so. A process lens, looking at businesses, decomposing business problems and challenges and needs through the process perspective is becoming more and more attractive, given the new nature of work that is being defined these days, today and in the future. So I've also published a book chapter on this topic, Industry 4.0, new work models. I have proposed a new work system that I call it self-management work systems that I have introduced that it's a better model to collaborate and get the works done in the future organizations and businesses, given the nature of technologies disrupting how works are being done in business and organizations. So given that new work model, that a lot of companies are going through that transformation, the way they're working together, employees or staff working together, businesses working together, the ways businesses are providing services or products for the customers, that's significantly changing. In that competitive environment, new set of competencies and skills are demanded from employers. So we talk to employers here in the US. We always ask them, what are you looking for, in your new employees that you would like to hire? What are some of the skill sets or competencies that are in short, and you would like to get more of those skill sets or competencies because of the new challenges and issues that the businesses are facing? So some of those can be addressed through this lens. I would like to ask those who are in the meeting today to wear this lens, a process lens. Anything we talk about today, we're going to look at it through this lens, the process lens. So what are those skills that companies are looking for? Given this, again, new work model, the competitive new work model, and the competencies that are not traditionally available for us in the staff or employees that we hire for companies. Critical thinking, for example, is one of those. Critically thinking about business challenges or problems. Analytically thinking, solving problems, systems thinking, abstract reasoning. So these are new skill sets or competencies that a lot of companies are demanding anytime again I talk to them, they're asking for these skill sets. So one of the ways we can critically think about business problems or challenges, solving problems, thinking about companies, organizations as a system is through this process lens or process perspective. So I wanted to start with this to make sure that any discussion, any idea that I mention in my talk, we're looking at it through this lens, through this process lens. And the result of looking at problems, challenges, organizations, projects through this process lens, the outcome of that is that we will be able to identify opportunities and we will be able to make improvements. We will be able to critically, analytically look at challenges and issues so that we can meet our business objectives and needs. Again, the nature of the opportunities, challenges, and objectives is different given the new work model that we have, right? So given the automations that we have, the workforce is different, the nature of projects are different, right? So 50, 60 years ago, project management had a different nature. And these days, today, we depend on technology to manage our projects. Our clients, customers, our staff, employees are located in different parts of the world and all together to manage projects. So given all these changes and disruptions, Process Lens is a very effective tool to help us critically, analytically think about our business problems and challenges so that we can identify areas for improvements, opportunities for improvements, so that we can decompose our business challenges and issues into process-related components so that we can critically think about them. So I wanted to start with this process lens perspective. And then I wanted to talk about a few other assumptions that I would like to make is about a business process. Obviously, the scholars and professors here on the call, they know the answer to this question, but anyone else I would like, know that there are not many of us here on this call, but I would like to hear one or two definitions for a business process. How does everyone define a business process or describe a business process? If there are any students or anyone else who would like to just make it, a couple of examples of the ways that they think this is a business process. This is important about a business process. How does everyone define a business process? What is core in the definition of a business process?
I'm sorry. Is it similar to workflow? No, right?
It has some similar characteristics to workflow for sure. Yeah. So a few assumptions are important about the business process. So we would like to define a business process systematically based on the best practices, the definitions that we are provided by BPMN, for example, Institute, BPMN 2.0 standards that are used to model business processes, right? So anytime we mention the business process, what are we referring to? What kind of business entity or idea are we talking about? What are the important things about each business process? So first of all, a business process is not a workflow, as Dr. Badir said, or an activity or a project that is done in isolation. A business process is a network. It's a chain. That notion is important because anytime we try to make an improvement in a business process, that change will affect other parts of the network of activities that are related to that activity or task. So changes, improvements do not happen in isolation in business processes. They happen in a network. Any change in the beginning of a process may have impact at the end of the project or somewhere in the middle of the process or somewhere in the middle. So that notion is very important when we talk about business processes. And business processes are a network of activities or tasks that we perform, decisions that we make. For example, if there is any defect in a product, do we accept it? Yes or no? If we want to, for example, we get customer satisfactions. What level of satisfactions do we get from customers and how do we move forward with that? So there are points in time in processes that we need to make decisions. And from those points on, the course of the process changes. So a process is a chain that is made up of activities, the things that we do, right? We make decisions, we review documents, we submit requests. All those activities are part of a tasks we need to perform to perform the process. Processes are also made up of events. Events are things that happen at the beginning and the end of the process. What is the point in time based on which we're going to look at any business process? That's the start event. And when do we assume the ending of a process? That's the end event, or when we get the outcome from a process. And also, there are entities, human actors and computer actors that they perform those activities or tasks. And those are actors or roles. So anytime we're thinking about in the business process, in order to manage those processes, we need to be able to identify these components, right? So that's how we define a business process. For example, if we're thinking about the order process, what is order process? As soon as we see order process, we need to be asking about, well, what are the tasks that are performed in the order process? What are the decisions that are made, the critical decisions that are made in the order process? What are the who does what in the order process? Is it all automated 100%? Are there any human actors? Those human actors perform which task in the process? So these are important components of any business process that we can think of, and they need to be identified so that we can effectively manage processes. Business processes perform a business function. So there are different kinds of processes, but when we talk about the business process, they perform a specific business function. And some of the good examples of business functions are, for example, order, payment, shipment, customer support, right? So any business, you can break it down into those functions. In order to run the business, they need to perform those functions. They need to achieve goals for those functions. For example, they need to allow their customers to submit orders. They need to collect payments from customers, right? So each of those functions are performed through processes. What is the process through which we allow our customers to submit orders? What is the process through which we are able to collect payments from our customers? So when we look at those business functions through processes, then we can look at the tasks that are done, decisions that are made, and actors or roles through the process as well. In addition to the functions that we perform through processes, we create some kind of values. We create values for the business. The value, if the payment process is fast and efficient, it saves time for the organization, right? So that's the value that the payment process must provide for the business, for the organization. At the same time, if the payment process is convenient, it will increase customer satisfaction. And that's the value that it provides for the customers. So through processes, not only we perform business functions like order, payment, shipment, customer support, but we also create some kind of value. And this is the question that you need to always ask. What value does this process provide? And are we able to achieve, to provide that value for our customers or for our business? So with these assumptions, I would like to zoom out a little bit and look at the universe of a business process. So I mentioned that the business process is a network. It's a chain. It's a network of activities, decisions, resources we use, and the different actors working together. So if we look at these, for example, processes, sub-processes such as sourcing, finding the best supplies, ordering supplies, receiving invoices from suppliers, making payments to get those supplies, and managing our relationships with our suppliers. So all these sub-processes, they're only part of the procurement process. And so if you zoom out, if we look into each of these processes, they are consisted of activities, decisions, resources, right? But then if we zoom out, we'll see that procurement is by itself made up of sub-processes. And if we zoom out even more, we will see that through supply chain, procurement needs to work with other processes through supply chain. For example, inbound logistics is important. How do we get the supplies from suppliers? And this could be digital supplies or it could be physical supplies. And then we need to make the product. We need to provide and offer the product or service. And there are a bunch of processes that make up the manufacturing or content creation processes. And we need to think about outbound logistics and then sales and marketing. How are we going to sell our product? How are we going to market our products and services? And then after we sell them, What are our post-sale services processes? So all these together are the processes that any business that is providing any kind of product or service, they need to manage them. So that's why I wanted to look at this as a metaphor, the process universe, right? So as you can see that processes are building blocks. That's why I referred to it in the beginning of my presentation as building blocks of any business. We can decompose any business idea that we have, or if you're working for any business, we can always look at it through this process lens to decompose it into processes that they need to work together so that we can run the business, make profits, provide products and services for our customers. But it doesn't stop there. So if we zoom out more, so this is the business from the previous slide. If we zoom out even more to look at this universe of processes, we'll see that, well, the business that we looked at in the previous slide, they need to work with customers, clients, and users, and they have their own processes, or they have their own needs, or the processes through which they get order products or services from business A. At the same time, businesses work with other businesses, right? So what are the processes for business A for their supply chain? What are the processes for business B? And then business B also works with customers and clients. At the same time, when we are managing processes between businesses and customers, we need to go through compliance processes. What are the regulations or policies that will shape or form our business A processes, business B processes, customers processes? For example, data sharing, privacy, security. What are all those regulations? If it's in the healthcare industry, in the US, we have HIPAA. HIPAA is all about protecting patients' information. In California, for example, where I am, we have California Privacy Act, right? So these regulations and policies affect and change and form business processes that we have in this complex network. And they're not just national regulations. Some of them are industry specific regulations, right? If we're talking about finance, there are specific policies, regulations, laws that we need to comply with if we're in the finance sector. If you're in the healthcare sector, there are different industry specific regulations that we need to comply with. So some of them are national. Then we can also zoom out even more. We need to be in compliance with international regulations. If we are providing products or services to customers in Europe, in Asia, in China, in Thailand, in Africa, any part of the world, we need to be in compliance with those as well. So there are international laws and regulations. For example, the one that is in Europe that many companies in the US need to comply with if they're providing product or service in Europe is GDPR, General Data Protection Rule. So that is going to affect processes for the companies that offer services in Europe, for example. So what becomes important given this complex universe of processes is to the ability, so which companies are successful, which companies can be profitable, which companies can survive this complex network is what becomes important is the ability to adapt and scale. So companies need to be able to adapt and grow and scale their business to be competitive and be profitable. So I'll talk about in the next slide, I make a suggestion that how we can help companies to adapt and scale given this complex network and looking at it, again, our lens, I'm looking at everything through the process lens. So how do we improve processes? So there is a very well-established business process lifecycle, business process management lifecycle through which we improve processes. It's an iterative framework. There are a number of number of steps that we go through iteratively to improve processes. It's not a one-time shot, right? So we constantly go through it to make sure our order process is efficient, to make sure our payment process is efficient, to make sure our customer support is efficient and our customers do not need to wait 1 hour before we answer their questions, for example. If there is a case like that, if any company looks at their customer support. They get complaints from customers and they say that, well, I have to wait 1 hour on the phone to get my questions answered or my complaints addressed, then that means the customer support process is inefficient, right? So how can we improve that process or any business process? So first, we need to identify what are the critical processes in our organization. So sometimes that's very clear. We have very clear issues with specific processes in our organization. We go to them, right? Sometimes it's not clear. We need to look at the industry we're in. What are the best standards? What are the standards? What are the thresholds in any specific industry? And how are we doing against those standards and best practices, for example? Then we identify those processes and we model them to make it easier to collaborate, improving those processes, and then we analyze them. That's the next step in BPM lifecycle. When we analyze processes, we're thinking about this is very, again, important. What are the best indicators, business indicators that we can use to measure whether our process is efficient or effective? Those metrics become very important. So based on specific metrics that are important for our business, for our organizations, they are based on our business goals and objectives, we analyze the process and we find issues with it. After the analysis step, once we identify issues, we suggest changes. We will be suggesting changes, sitting with the stakeholders, right? So all stakeholders will be sitting next to us. Some of them will be the customers. Some of them will be our engineers. Some of them will be our business analysts, for example. We sit together, we'll look at the business process models, and we'll say that what changes can we make to address the issues from our analysis step. The next point, the next step in BPM lifecycle will be to implement those changes, right? So we need to think, how can we implement those changes, operationalize those changes? And then once we implement them, we monitor them over time to see that whether those changes are actually making improvements. They are improving our metrics based on which we identify issues and suggest the changes. And if it doesn't, then we go through this cycle again. We suggest, we'll look at the metrics again, we suggest changes, we implement them, we monitor. So it is an iterative process. Management is a continuous iterative process that businesses must go through all the time. It's not a one-time change. And part of it is because, industries are rapidly changing all around us, all different industries, right? And part of that rapid change in industries is because of the introduction of new technologies. And we're talking with Dr. Badir, the AI technologies, right? AI tools, all of that, all those technologies are disrupting how businesses work. And we need to be on top of that. Companies need to be on top of that. So, and given the BPM life cycle, I mentioned values also when I defined the business process, but the values are not the same, as I said in when I started with the definition of a business process. Businesses are looking for or seeking the values that are inherently suitable for them. For example, they would like the improvement or values that businesses are looking for is to increase their revenue, to increase their profits, to be in compliance with all those international, national, industry-specific regulations that I mentioned. Businesses also, the value that they can create is societal or environmental. Is it through our process, for example, we're wasting a lot of materials that is not good for the environment. The societal impact of the ways our social networks are being used, for example, is not good for the society, for example. These are the values that a good process can create for customers and for the business. Security, for example, the businesses would like a process, for example, if we're talking about payment process, to be secure. So when we're talking about that, then we need to identify security vulnerabilities in our process to make sure we create that value for the business. Enforcing policies and making sure that there is a governance in place to create accountability for all those actors or roles in a process that perform certain tasks or activities, gaining efficiency in terms of saving time and money. At the same time, for our employees, we would like to make sure our employees are accountable. What do we mean by that? Meaning that we will be able to track who does what for what purposes, right? So through business process management, we will be able to manage responsibilities and create accountabilities for our employees so that if something goes wrong, or if there are some, for example, data breaches, or some intellectual properties for our businesses shared or compromised or leaked, we will be able to track it down and hold the individuals responsible for that. And also productivity, right? Processes can potentially make our employees more productive as they're working on their projects and performing business functions. At the same time, customers have different values that they pursue. They would like to make sure that their personal information is private, is not shared. They would like to have, through business processes, we would like to create a positive experience for customers and for our clients. What do we mean by the experience? That's what customers are looking for through process, through order process, through payment process, through customer support process. Some of the typical business process that we can think of, they would like that processes that they go through to be fast. It shouldn't cost them a lot of time and money. It should be easy to follow. It should be convenient, and it should be error-free. The process, if for example, customers, when they are going through order process or payment process or shipment process, if it's confusing, if they don't have enough information when they go through those steps, then chances are high to make mistakes. It's an error-prone process, and we would like to avoid that. So there are different values that we create for businesses, employees, and customers and clients, and that needs to be investigated when we are trying to think how we can manage processes and make them better. We need to measure whether these values that are important for business employees and customers are being satisfied or not. So now in the next slides, I'll talk about automation, and then I'll make a couple of examples from finance industries to highlight, given the first slide that I started with, the new work model, the nature of work is changing, the ways organizations are managing their projects is changing. What is some of the important things that we need to keep in mind to make sure our processes are effective, efficient, and we are able to create values for the organization and the customers? When we talk about automation is not in one form. Some tasks in a process or activities in a process can be fully automated. Some of them are partially automated, mixed with human actors in the process. If I have to ask, I would like to ask the audience that when we look at the process that is consisted of 5, 10, 20 tasks that we need to perform in a specific chain of events and sequence, in a specific sequence, which tasks are the best candidates to be automated? This is the automation question, right? So a lot of companies now, a lot of businesses are using different technologies to automate some parts of their business, some part of their organization. So one of the questions that they need to ask is that what tasks, what activities must be automated? Not everything can be automated or should be automated. What are the best candidates for the process tasks to be automated? If I can get a couple of thoughts, that would be great. If not, I'll just continue with my slides. So which process tasks are the best candidates to be automated, fully or partially? So the process tasks that are best candidates to be automated are the ones that are repetitive, they're laborious, and they're rule-based, meaning that we can break them down into a number of steps, rule-based steps, that if we implement them through a computer system or any computer application, that can be replicated over and over as long as we follow those steps. So any task in our process that qualifies like that will be a good candidate. Very good. So I get some responses in the chat: repetitive, standardized, task management like sprints. Very good. Yeah, those are some good examples. So when I look at, one of the ways that we can effectively implement automation in our organization is by using this process perspective, by looking at automation through process perspective. There's another benefit of process lens that I started my talk with. So another important thing about automation, process automation, is to make sure that we leave some room for the human actors to intervene if necessary, right? So we need to make sure that what are different ways that humans can intervene, customize things, change things in case something goes wrong with our automation, right? So we need to provide that opportunity for the human actors. That could be the engineers, that could be the business analysts, to make changes in process automation in case things go wrong. I also wanted to mention the business process management is also being disrupted like many other areas of businesses and organizations or companies. The introduction of AI, generative AI, general AI, artificial general AI, and ultimately singularity. I don't know if I'm guessing that everyone is familiar with the idea of singularity, and basically what it proposes, singularity, is that everything will be connected to everything, and we will have a super intelligence that will be doing everything for us, right? So that's where we're moving towards that singularity. When do we get there? No one knows, but we see signs of that singularity, right? That super intelligence that does everything for us. I'll make an example in this slide. And if you don't know about it, I'll ask you all to go and look it up and look into the future of how businesses will be managed and function in the future. So what becomes more important again is that businesses need to be adaptive to changes that are happening. And one of the ways we can help businesses to be adaptive and to adapt, scale, and grow is by looking at their business needs, objectives, problems, issues, and challenges through the process lens. That's one of the benefits. So business process management becomes even more important and relevant given all these AI, artificial changes, AI tools and assistants and automation needs that a lot of organizations are pursuing. So one example I would like to provide, I don't know if, has anyone heard about this AI tool that Amazon recently launched, Amazon Q? Has anyone heard about it? So Amazon Q is basically a business analyst AI. So, business analysts functions at the intersection of technology and business. They need to elicit business requirements. Then they need to see which technologies can help us to meet those business requirements, right? So that's what business analysts do. Through the steps that a business analyst goes through, they need to collect data, they need to analyze data, report data, and make interpretations of the data. And all of that can be done by AI tools like Amazon Q. So I provided a link there. Look it up and read more about it and see what is the future of business process management is going to be like. And in the future, when I talk about the future, it's not going to be the far future. I think in 3 or 4 or 5 years, we're going to be there, if not already being there. That's how business processes will be managed in the future, like AI tools like Amazon Q. So typically one of the so we're living in information age. And information age, the way we define it is that information or data becomes the primary driver of economy. So more we can do with data, more profit we can get, more revenue we can get, more successful products or services we can offer, more customers we're going to have, better we can scale and grow. So information has become the primary driver of economy. So when we talk about data or information, what are the steps involved in it? We need to collect some kind of data. We need to analyze it through any different techniques, machine learning and algorithms, analytical algorithms and things like that. Then we need to report and communicate it, present it. And then that's when we get the intelligence or insight that we can use for our business or for our company. But what we see, what's disrupted here is that all of these now can be done by Amazon Q, which is a conversational AI bot or agent that will be always on the side, and we will feed all our company enterprise data into that. So you can into it. So you can think of it as a local chat GPT. So local AI is one of those trends that we're going to see more and more of them, right? So I have a chat GPT that only works for my own business. I have a chat GPT that only works for me because it has only my data, right? So when it comes to AI, conversational AI, the most important thing is the training data, right? What data do we use to train them? Then in this case will be the entire business data, historical data. If the company has been around for 10 years, we feed all that business data from different aspects of our business, the shipments, the customer relationships, customer support, all those steps of supply chain. We fit it into Amazon Q. And then on the side, we'll ask questions. Hey, Amazon Q, last quarter, this specific product that I'm selling to my customers, how did I do? And then Amazon Q will look at all the data in a split of a second, something that a business analyst will do. And Amazon Q will, again, if you guys go to the link, you will be able to see those examples on their website. And Amazon Q will be saying that, well, last quarter, you will underperform 10% less than your target. And if you want to do better next quarter, you need to make these changes. And all of that insight will be provided in a split of a second, right? So the entire process of collecting data, analyzing data, reporting data, creating insights, communicating, presenting it, all of that is done by Amazon Q like AI assistant. It collapses into that. And this is the future of business process management that we need to talk about, we need to think about, so that we make sure that we keep up before and stay relevant for the future that is already here. So I would like to finish with a couple of slides about the business processes in finance and what is important in finance sector. And I just make a very important point that I think is one of the most important ideas that we need to keep in mind when we're managing processes in post-digital revolution, information age, industry 4.0 work environments and industries. So if you think about in the business, some of the typical processes, financial process for any business is as a buyer from the suppliers to get the supplies, and that will happen through the order to pay process. So basically a business will order some supplies and they'll make the payment for them and they'll receive them from the suppliers. On the other hand, they also need to work as a seller with the customers to offer their products and services to customers. And that'll happen through the order to cash process. So given these two typical, again, very typical, any customer oriented business that provides any kind of product or service to their customers, they need to manage these processes, order to pay, order to cash processes, to get the supplies, turn them into product or services, giving them to the customers. So these processes become important in business process automation and business process management when we look at the big picture in which they are embedded. A business has its own goals, objectives, and strategy, and they will internally work with the employees through their organizational processes, the processes through which employees work in different projects on different tasks to manage products, platforms, services that they provide. So in businesses, there are some processes that are organizational processes. Some of the processes are inter-organizational, meaning that the business works with other businesses. If you guys remember, I looked at the business process universe, businesses work together. It's not one business working in a silo. They all work together. So there are some inter-organizational processes. All of these together needs to be managed so that we can provide products or services for our customers and clients. And that will entail business to customers, consumers, B2C, and business to business processes. So given this big picture that incorporates pay to order to pay, and order to cash financial processes that we looked at in the previous slide. So what I've discussed in my book chapter that Dr. Badir mentioned is that the most important thing, given this model, given these most typical processes for any business that needs to receive order and make payments for supplies and products and services that they provide for customers, the most important thing would be the alignment, making sure that strategically not only our organizational processes align with the B2C and B2B processes through which we provide products or services for our customers and clients, not only our organizational processes, but our inter-organizational processes, they must be aligned strategically. Our business goals, when we talk about values, for example, we need to make sure that our values align and they're not going to be imbalanced. For example, our focus is not going to be only to make sure that our customers go through convenient, user-friendly processes. That can be the over-focus will make our business process management imbalanced. At the same time, we need to make sure that when we're working with other businesses, our processes, order process, payment process, supply chain management process, all those steps that I talked about in previous slides, they align with the processes from other businesses. So that alignment becomes the most important factor that I believe, the most important factor to make sure that we are going to use those future AI technologies that we're going to use. We are going to effectively and strategically using them. Given this alignment, we will be able to gain that efficiency and effectiveness through our business processes that are, again, the most essential building blocks of any business or company that we can think of. So now this is going to be a little bit different given the AI technologies. I mentioned that any decisions that we're making in businesses, there are AI driven, they're data driven, right? Because we're living in an information age and information has become the primary driver of economy. So AI enabled alignment then becomes important. How can we use AI technologies or tools or assistants like Amazon Q or NVIDIA? NVIDIA, you guys know about NVIDIA is one of the biggest, computer chip makers in the world. And any AI benefits that we get is based on those chips that they make, right? So they have, for example, suggested a new AI assistant tool that you guys can look it up. It's called Clara. Clara is in healthcare, which is a nurse, basically. So instead of nurses, we're going to have AI tools. Instead of business analysts, this is a sad news for those who would like to pursue, for example, business analytics probably, but their roles are not going to go away. The human factor is not going to go away. It's going to transform into something else that can be compatible with these AI enabled data driven capabilities. And so the entire alignment can be done by an AI tool like Amazon Q. That is what becomes important in that alignment. It is data driven. It is business oriented. It is interactive, right? So AI is not new to us. It's been around for a long time, right? But it has a different form today. And it's becoming more and more conversational and interactive, right? So this is a different nature, different characteristic of AI that we're observing for businesses. So it will become more interactive like Amazon Q as well. And also it will make it easier for us to manage processes to ensure alignment. And that's one of the benefits that we can get from AI. So this is the final point that I would like to make for my talk. And the point is that AI is here. It's going to be more and more in the future, right? We need to think about it. How can we strategically use AI to gain benefits, right? To create values, not just for our employees to be more productive, not just for our business to be more profitable, not just for our customers to be satisfied, right? Not just those, but also making sure that we can effectively use AI where it's supposed to be used. We can strategically use AI. And we will be able to do that if we look at the application of AI through the business process lens. It will help us critically and analytically think how we, and where and to what extent we can use AI to gain those benefits and create those values that I mentioned. So basically, that's the last point that I wanted to make in my talk, and my email is on the screen. If anyone wants to have some follow-up conversation or would like to think about any collaboration that we can do in the areas of process automation or business process management, I will be very happy to talk about it. And this cartoon that I have on this slide, it kind of highlights an important point where it's good for the business, but it's not good for the staff, right? The business is getting more efficient. They can manage more number of complaints in a short amount of time, but at the same time, there is going to be staff and employees who need to address those complaints in the short amount of time. So larger number of complaints in a shorter amount of time is not good for the employees, but it's good for the business, right? So this is the point of alignment that I'm trying to make, saying that all those values and benefits, efficiencies need to be aligned across those processes so that our customers are happy, the business is happy, the businesses that we work with are happy, and we gain efficiency and effectiveness overall as well. So that was my short talk. If there are any comments or questions, please feel free to ask. And as well, after my talk, my email is there. If you have any follow-up questions, comments, recommendations, collaborations, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Dadgar. Thank you very much. This is really very interesting topic. Thank you very much for this. Typically our people really don't ask questions. They prefer to write. So guys, any question, any comment would you like to share, or do you have any question for Dr. Dadgar here? You can write in the chatting room if you prefer. Dr. Dadgar, I have only one question. It's not really a question, but I do organizational design, and you nicely mentioned in your book, at least in the chapter you wrote for the digital project practice. So you mentioned usually business processes, to benefit from it, you may need to do something about the organization, restructure, you call it, right? And so this is one part of it. And the second part is the rigidity that can be created by the process automation, because I assume with time we will start to have very rigid system. This is my thinking about it. I might be wrong. I assume I am wrong. So anything you'd like to say here about the relationship between business process automation, organizational rigidity, which usually develop or evolve because of the extreme routine? And again, for me, extreme routine can be created by the business process automation, possibly.
Absolutely. So when we're thinking about making changes in processes, we usually look into two broad categories. One of them is automation, that I talked about a little bit. The other is restructuring, making organizational changes, right? So it's a very interesting question you're asking. So what becomes important to effectively restructure our organization, right? What becomes important is change management. And, anytime we would like to introduce a new tool, technology for our employees to use it to work on their projects, they resist it, right? They perceive the difficulty. They perceive the fact that they need to do extra work. So managing change and consequently managing conflicts, because of that might be the byproduct of change or resistance, becomes very important to effectively restructure our organization to achieve our goals more efficiently, or to more effectively manage our process. So change management becomes very important. The other factor that you talked about, rigidity, I would say that what becomes important in that regard is architecture. For example, we're data driven, right? Any business decisions that we make, any projects that we manage, is data driven. We're doing it based on some kind of data or information, right? So we need to have a data architecture in place that is robust, stable, and flexible at the same time. So architecture, data architecture, infrastructure architecture, network architecture, they become very important. We need to have a blueprint of the entire organization so that we know our boundaries and our constraints, right? So once we know our boundaries, then we make changes within those boundaries. We make structural changes, right? We change this, we restructure things, or business process management used to be known as business process re-engineering. We re-engineer our tasks, projects, our staff, our departments, our business units more effectively once we have that architecture in place. And a lot of businesses, unfortunately, they're hesitant to think about architecture because there is not commitment from the management to look at it. I've worked with so many businesses that they struggle. For example, they struggle in very simple terms, for example, to manage their data. There is no database schema in place, right? They don't have processes to work together. They think about them as they go, and they suffer through these inefficiencies because they're not thinking about their business from the architectural capacity that I mentioned. So that becomes very important. That I can say about the comments that you made, which are very important, and relevant.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thank you very much, Dr. Dadgar. Guys, we have. I think this is for you.
Absolutely. I'm reading the question now in the chat.
Do you have any suggestion, research example on project management process automation? Since my background on the business operation, the critical steps.
So in terms of project management, what becomes important is the human resources becomes important, and stakeholders in general become very important, right? So as you will know, Jim, project management is very much stakeholder oriented, right? So the definition of business project management, project management, is to help companies, businesses to meet or exceed their customers' expectations and the business expectations, right? So it's very much stakeholder oriented. The best way we can ensure that we are using AI technologies effectively and efficiently is to collaboratively work with the stakeholders. As you well know, one big area of project management is stakeholders. Stakeholder management, stakeholders' needs, managing stakeholders' expectations. So that should be the starting point. That should be what is required from our stakeholders for any specific project through which to deliver any product or service to them. So collaboratively, working closely with the stakeholders will let us decide where we need to use AI, to what extent, what needs to be fully automated, what must be automated, what must be partially automated, and how can we improve our indicators over time. So, and that's what I can mention. Also, when we're talking about projects are different than processes, right? So when we're talking about processes, business processes, we're talking about business functions that we need to repeat. Anytime we're getting order from our customers, they go through the order process. It's not a short-term effort or endeavor that we go through. It's a repetitive, operational, daily steps, a process that we need to go through to get orders, to get payments from our customers, right? So that's very important in business process management, which is a little bit different from project management. But obviously, as we're managing projects, we're going through different processes to manage projects. But the distinction between project and process is also very important when we're thinking about automation. I hope I was able to answer your question, Jim.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dadgar. Thank you very much. I was referring to your chapter 3 in the book, and I thought it's very interesting to read. And thank you very much for giving us overview. I think we dragged the conversation a bit far away from the focus of your chapter. The focus, I think, was on fintech, right?
Yeah.
But it's very interesting because anybody in the organization will be somehow impacted directly, indirectly with this business processes. If there is no other questions, so I think we arrived to the end of this session. Dr. Dadgar, thank you very, very much for sharing this knowledge with us. Deeply appreciated. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. And you guys have a good rest of the day. Here it is 8 p.m. So we're towards the end of the day, but you guys are ahead of us and you're going to start your day, and hopefully you all have a good day.